on to our next news. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has stated that the United States has, for the first time, openly acknowledged carrying out CIA operations in Venezuela. Speaking at an event in Caracas, Maduro has accused the CIA of previously plotting against both former President Hugo Chavez and himself. Earlier, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Iván Gil also said that they viewed the CIA authorization from Trump administration with an alarm, stating that such maneuvers aim to legitimize a regime change operation and ultimately intends to seize Venezuela's oil resources. This came as a recent U.S. strike targeted an alleged drug vessel in the Caribbean. The U.S. military strikes on suspected drug boats off of Venezuela's coast on October 14th reportedly killed at least 27 people. In response, Venezuela has called on the United Nations Security Council to declare the U.S. strikes illegal and to issue a statement affirming Venezuela's sovereignty. Let's listen into what Venezuelan president has said.
El gobierno de Estados Unidos decide mandar a la CIA para Venezuela. ¿Ustedes vieron la noticia? Autorizaron que la CIA haga operaciones contra Venezuela, contra la paz de Venezuela. Eso nunca se había visto. Siempre lo han hecho. Siempre lo han hecho, pero jamás ningún gobierno anterior desde que la CIA existe dijo públicamente que mandaba a la CIA a matar, a derrocar y a acabar a los países.
Now we move on to our next news. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said that the IMF should strengthen its surveillance activities, including on China. He has urged the World Bank to end support for China and redirect funds to countries with greater needs. Bessent has stressed that both institutions need more budget discipline and should freeze senior salaries. He has noted that there is no consensus on realigning shareholdings at the World Bank and expects the 2025 review to conclude without changes. Bessent has further added that future IMF governance talks must be based on new quota formula. He has reaffirmed that the IMF has adequate resources and that the U.S. remains committed to the 16th quota review. Now for this discussion, we're joined by John Rossomando. He's a president of Viking Research Associates and geopolitical analyst, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, John, for joining us again. Good to see you. John, what's your reaction towards this Bessent's comments about IMF?
Well, I think that he's looking at the fact that China is now the second largest economy in the world. It's become the central hub for global manufacturing. It doesn't need support from the World Bank or the IMF anymore. Plus, also, talking about China's involvement, with supporting Russia's war effort. So, from that perspective, the IMF is therefore, indirectly supporting the Russian war effort.
And currently still China holds, a status as developing country. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think they should be regarded as a developing country any longer. I mean, its economy is larger than practically every other economy except for the United States. So we should be holding China to the same standards that we hold other developed countries. I mean, you have, very stark differences between the coasts and areas inland, but China is very much a developed country.
And also looking back at Scott Bessent's comments, how realistic is his proposal to end World Bank support for China and redirect funds to more needed countries who need them? Also, what about the senior positions salary increase?
Well, I think that China has a lot of leverage at the UN, World Bank, and I'm doubtful that anything will change. because it's in China's interest to keep the money coming.
You mentioned that you doubt about the changes. What do you think? What are the challenges that IMF faces in achieving consensus and reforms on these realignments, especially with emerging economies like China?
Well, I think that the challenge you have is like bureaucratic will. The Chinese have an extreme amount of influence with these countries that are participants in the IMF, World Bank, to rig the game in its favor.
And how might this calls for budget discipline and freezing senior salaries, IMF and World Bank affect effectiveness and credibility of these institutions?
Well, everyone has to live within their means, so this is a good way of trying to restore confidence in the World Bank and in the IMF as reliable institutions for lending in the developing world.
Thank you very much, John, for joining us and sharing that insight. Now we move on to Africa. Madagascar's coup leader, Colonel Michael Randrianirina, was sworn in as a president with cheers, blaring trumpets and raised swords days after taking control of the island nation in the wake of youth-led protests that has forced out his predecessor. Let's listen into what Randrianirina has said.
J'ai expliqué ça plusieurs fois. Parce qu'il y a un grand qui marche à Madagascar, il n'y a pas de président. Il n'y a pas de président du Sénat, il n'y a pas de gouvernement, il n'y a rien qui marche. Donc, on doit prendre la responsabilité du fait.
Meanwhile, the ex-leader Andry Rajoelina, whom the lawmakers impeached after he fled aboard at the weekend, has condemned to the takeover and refused to step down while in exile, despite widespread defections in the security forces and the High Constitutional Court ratifying the army takeover within hours of it happening. And that's a wrap